Let's do our NFL power rankings. We'll go through these suckers pretty quick. But who do you have as the number one team in the league right now?
I still have the Kansas City Chiefs. I know that may come as a surprise to some people coming off their loss. Still have a top five defense to me. Still have the best quarterback in football, but they are vulnerable. And I've said that. I've held that stance the entire way through. During their winning streak, 12 of their 15 games were decided by one score. They had the worst point differential of any team that had started out 9-0 in NFL history. So we've always known they were vulnerable. They play a bad game, in my opinion, a bad Chiefs game to the Bills. To me, it said more about the Bills than it did about the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Just that the Bills are the best contender in the AFC to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are vulnerable. That's what it said to me. I still have the Chiefs as my number one team in my power rankings.
I have the Chiefs number two. Honestly, my 1 through 3 are really, really close. I could kind of argue them in
I
any
agree.
direction. I have the Lions number one because I think they have the best offense in football. I think they have a dramatically improved defense. I think their offensive formula is just the easiest to execute week after week. My concern with them, the reason I consider dropping them to 3, ironically, even though they won by 46 this past week and won even though Jared Goff threw 5 picks the week before that, is because of the injury to Alex Anzalone. And he's supposed to come back in 6 to 8 weeks, but if he's not healthy for the playoffs, like, you combine that with the Hutchinson loss, which is obviously much bigger, but like, that's just a little concerning for this Lions defense, in my opinion. And it makes me wonder if I do trust the other two teams' defenses more, and I certainly trust their quarterbacks more. And those are the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. So I guess I'll just do it all at once right now. I have the Lions 1. I have the Chiefs 2 because I think that defense is amazing, and they have Patrick Mahomes. I just think they have some limitations offensively in terms of explosiveness, as we've seen. And then I have the Bills at 3. I think that the Bills' offense is amazing. I think it's better than the Chiefs, and we haven't seen the full force offense basically at all this entire year. I think that Josh is absolutely playing better than Patrick Mahomes right now. I think that he's playing as the best quarterback on the planet. Lamar Jackson is absolutely there, but I trust Josh more in a postseason setting. And the Bills' defense, I think, is playing some of the best football that they have really in Josh Allen's career right now. We've had some issues with the run defense throughout the year, but it hasn't been as pressing as of late. The Colts, you saw Jonathan Taylor have some success. Like, I'm not going to say that that isn't an issue, but they're great against the pass. The secondary, the corners specifically, are amazing. Terrell Bernard just won AFC Defensive Player of the Week. He's amazing. They're getting Matt Milano back. It's tempting for me to put the Bills right there on equal footing with the Chiefs. I think they're certainly the best candidate to beat them. At the end of the day, I just trust that Chiefs defense more. I think that Chiefs defense is so elite, and I think that they're better coached. I think Spags is a genius. But I like the Bills offense more, and I think that's going to be our AFC title game.
Yeah, we do a little flip flop there. I have the Lions 2, the Bills 3. The Lions are the most complete team in football to me. Best offensive line in the game, best offense. They're the number one scoring offense. They're the eighth highest scoring offense on a points per game basis since 2000. And the defense has improved. They're top 5 in scoring. I agree with you. The Anzalone and Hutchinson injuries concern me. I like Trevor Nowaski stepping up and being the next linebacker. He's not as good as Campbell or Anzalone, but he is solid. But, I mean, that's going to be the real test. Zadarius
Yeah.
Smith also needs to be healthy, too. He went down in this most recent game. So they're way better than last year. The Lions don't have a hole in their team, and I agree with you. The reason is I just believe in that offense. But there are little bit concerns there. Bills are 3 for me. I trust Josh more than Lamar. The Baltimore defense has glaring holes. This being said, I think the Bills Chiefs AFC title game hypothetical is going to come down and be matchup dependent. If the Bills run into the Ravens, I'm going to pick the Ravens to beat the Buffalo Bills. I just think they can exploit the Bills' weakness better than any other team in the AFC. If the Bills avoid the Ravens, I think we're going to get Bills Chiefs in the AFC title game. So I think the Bills, like, just top to bottom, are better than Baltimore. Again, I trust Josh more than Lamar. I think the Baltimore defense has holes that the Bills don't, but it's matchup dependent. If the Bills and Ravens face off, I would take the Ravens to beat the Bills head to head.
It's a tough matchup. Obviously, we saw that in the bludgeoning earlier in the year. Context I would add to that. You didn't have Amari Cooper yet in that offense for the Bills. And you also didn't have the Bills' three best defensive players on the team on the field. You didn't have Matt Milano, who is coming back. You didn't have Taron Johnson. You didn't have Terrell Bernard.
Cope harder, Bills, boy. Cope harder.
I'm just saying, I think that the Bills are the better football team. I'm not saying that I'm not concerned about that aspect of the matchup. I'm also saying, though, that the Bills' defense is playing a lot better now, and that group is going to be significantly healthier than it was. And I do trust Josh Allen more, and I trust the Bills' defense a lot more than the Ravens. I think the Bills can have much more success offensively against the Ravens in a rematch. So if it came down to it, I would pick the Bills. I understand you saying that the matchup is a factor for you, but I definitely think the Bills are the better team in a vacuum, and I would take them if we got that head-to-head again. Okay, my number 4 is the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that this team has impressed me the most relative to where I had them previously over the last few weeks. I mean, they've just been really reaching their ceiling. Defensively, they've been pretty dominant as of late, and we've seen them beat up on some bad offenses. We've also seen them keep some good offenses in check, the Commanders, the Bengals. So that's the thing. It's as stacked an offense as any in football with how great they are on the line, with how great their skill position talent is. And it's a really talented defense that now on the year is 6th in points allowed per drive, 3rd in yards allowed per drive. I'm not the biggest Jalen Hurts guy. He's playing better. He is definitely a question mark compared to some of these elite teams that we're talking about, but Philly is just so damn good all around that it's not enough for me to have them any lower than 4.
Yeah, I agree. The Eagles are also 4 for me. They're one of the most talented teams in the NFL, and they would be higher if I had more faith in Jalen Hurts or Nick Sirianni. I think the Eagles are arguably the second most talented team in football behind Detroit. You could argue that, but
I think you could argue number 1.
You could. I legitimately think you could. I just don't have as much faith in Hurts and Sirianni as I would like. So that's why the Eagles are down at number 4. But I agree with you. Top to bottom, I don't think I could have Philly any lower than this.
Agreed. My number 5, sorry, Logan, I cut you in line when I did my 3 for 1 earlier. Deal with it. Is the Minnesota Vikings. I've gotten a little bit lower on the Vikings. I think that we've seen the ugly side of the Sam Darnold experience. I still think they're a really good football team, though. I still think that they're a pretty elite defense. I still think that they have awesome skill position talent. They're a very balanced offense. Their play calling is great. More the reason that I have Philly above them now is that Philly's blown me away than it is that I've become significantly more concerned about Minnesota. I've become a little more concerned, but I still think when we're talking about the most complete teams in football, they are on the very short list.
The 2 teams that have fallen the furthest for me in this week's power rankings are the Ravens, who have fallen to 5, and the Vikings, who have fallen even lower for me. The Ravens are at 5 because Lamar needs to prove himself in big games, and the secondary is the biggest red flag among any contender in football right now. They are undisciplined. They are untalented. They are bad.
Yeah.
And Kyle Hamilton has gotten injured in, I believe, both of the past 2 games for Baltimore. Kyle Hamilton's one of the best defensive players in football. The guy is everywhere. In the run game, in the passing game, they need Kyle Hamilton to go to the Super Bowl. They need Kyle Hamilton to go to the AFC title game. So that's just something to watch over the next couple of weeks if he continues to – because, I mean, that's why he got hurt in the Steelers game. He blew up a run play behind the line of scrimmage and then had to go out briefly.
Too much of a dog.
Something to monitor. If Hamilton is out there, I have a little more faith in the secondary. If Hamilton's not, I don't believe in this secondary at all. I think they're going to get cooked by everybody. So it's Lamar and Henry, but the reason they've fallen for me, because Baltimore and Kansas City have been lockstep 1 and 2 for me this entire season. And it's not because I believe that the Ravens are a, team without a hole top to bottom, but it's just because those holes have been more glaring recently. The secondary's become a bigger problem, and again, Lamar versus the Steelers is one thing, and I think it gets overplayed, but it is a concern. He's got to prove himself in big games. That's not a concern with Josh Allen. It's just not. That's why they're the 3rd team in the AFC for me, and that's why they're at number 5.
They're my 3rd team in the AFC too. I have them just 1 spot lower at number 6. Really comes down to the defense. Do I have some concerns about the offense being as good against a really good defense in the playoffs as they are in the regular season? Sure, I think that the Steelers game, although I'm with you, like they always play Lamar incredibly well. They might be the best defense in football. That's a really dramatic example, but that is like the red flag performance for the Ravens offense. I still think, though, they're an absolutely elite offense. I think they're a top 2 offense in football, probably. The problem is this defense. The problem is the secondary, this pass defense, where they've been among the worst in football all year. They're 22nd in points allowed per drive, and that's just led to some really bad losses this year. That's how you lose a game to the Browns. That's how you lose a game to the Raiders when they couldn't get a stop on multiple consecutive drives against the Raiders. That's why I have them here. Versus Minnesota, it's really close. Like, yeah, I trust Lamar Jackson infinitely more than I do Sam Darnold. But when we're talking about the complete team factor, the Ravens have the biggest red flag. They have the biggest hole of any team that we've addressed up to this point, and that is their pass defense.
Yeah, I get that. And the next 4 teams, including Baltimore, I guess I'll just get this out of the way. Everybody else, I just have more confidence in than Sam Darnold, and that's why the Vikings have fallen for me. So I have the Packers in my 6th spot, and it's really to do with the Jordan Love Darnold debate. And I know Love has been reckless at times with the football. Like sometimes he's just careless. The Packers' offense strikes so quick. Like they just manufacture shot plays at a higher rate than almost anybody else, other than probably Detroit in football. I like that aspect of Green Bay. They're a big play defense. They manufacture turnovers. They're just a big play team. I like their running game more than ever. Jordan Love hits on big shot plays every single drive, it feels like, and the defense shows up when they need them. So Green Bay's at number 6 for me. And like I said, everybody else above the Vikings, it is because of Sam Darnold. It's because I just believe in their quarterbacks more.
Okay, that's interesting. For me, the gap between these two defenses goes in Minnesota's favor. That outweighs, I think, the offensive gap between these two teams, but I don't think it's a big gap in either direction. My number 7 team, Logan, is your Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that this is an incredible defense. I think it is a defense that arguably has the most potential to disrupt opposing offenses in football, and I think it is the best Steelers offense that we've seen easily in a half decade. And I think it's a pretty average offense at the end of the day, but average is a big step up. So when they are just this dominant on the defensive side, when they are this capable of making swing plays on that end, and when they can put forth a solid offense with Russ there under center, with George Pickens, with a little bit more explosiveness in the vertical passing game, and with the ability to run the ball at a solid level, I really like the Steelers. I think that there's a difference between the teams that have contending ceilings in them, because I think to win the Super Bowl, you have to be able to string together multiple really good offensive performances. That's the one limitation of the Steelers. But against inferior teams, I think they can just eat them alive defensively and do enough offensively.
Yeah, I have the Steelers at number 8. I agree with you. I think they're the best defense in football, and it's the most reliable quarterback the Steelers have had post Big Ben. They're number 8 for me, though, because they still need to prove themselves in the red zone. Since Russell Wilson has taken over at quarterback, they're 30th in red zone scoring. And Russ in the red zone specifically is 7 of 24. He's completing under 30% of his passes for 49 total yards. That's 2 yards per attempt. He's got 5 TDs and a pick, but Justin Fields was unequivocally better in the red zone. I think Russ makes this offense way better with what he can do vertically with George Pickens and just getting that man the football. The Steelers' offense, I have said it for years now. I feel like I'm screaming into a void until this year. Get the ball to George Pickens. Good things are going to happen. Russ brings that dynamic. That's why the offense is better. But at number 7, I have a team that the Steelers actually beat, and a team that is debuting in my top 10 of my power rankings this season, and that's the Los Angeles Chargers. The reason I have them here, the Vikings defense is better than the Chargers defense. The Steelers defense is better than the Chargers defense. Justin Herbert is playing MVP level football right now, and that's the difference to me. When I have a tiebreaker between football teams, your defense can be leagues better than other teams. There's a different level of faith I have in the quarterback with LA, and Herbert is playing MVP level football. I just have a different level of faith in Justin Herbert, and that's why they're number 7.
That's fair. I have them one spot lower. I have them at number 8, and I want to see this defense continue to be tested because the number one scoring defense in football thing to me is fake. I mean, that is a product of some of the very bad offenses they faced in the second half against Cincinnati was concerning. I still think it's a good defense, though, and Justin Herbert is just playing out of his damn mind. I just think if you give a player at this level a top 5 quarterback, inarguably a defense of this caliber, that's a really good formula. And even when the situation around him isn't great offensively, not too worried. They have Justin Herbert, and they don't need to be the most dynamic offense in football because it's going to be the combination of that defense and that elite quarterback play. That's why I trust them more than the teams that I have below them. So we have those two flipped, the Steelers and Chargers at 7 and 8.
And at number 9, I have the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay.
It's all because of Sam Darnold. I don't really need to dress this up. They're a top 3 defense in football. I love their skill position talent, from Aaron Jones to Jettas to Hawkinson to Naylor to Addison. They're loaded. And I like their offensive line, too. It's Sam Darnold. He needs to prove himself. He leads the NFL in turnovers right now with 14. I'm just slowly souring on the boy Sam. I trust Russell Wilson more. I trust Justin Herbert more.
Oh, yeah.
Love, Lamar, Hurts, anybody above him. That's why the Vikings are at number 9. It's not a team thing. It's not a coaching thing. It's not an offensive skill thing. It's a Sam Darnold thing. That's why they're number 9.
I get it. In the last handful of weeks, I mean, since the bye, the Vikings haven't been as impressive as they were before the bye, right? I mean, the Lions game, I thought they played really well. The Rams game, that was a competitive loss to a good team, but their wins have been uglier. Colts game, more turnovers. Jags game was way closer than it should have been. Titans game was pretty good. They were in control of that game, but, you're facing the Titans. So I understand getting lower on them. I just still like so much about this football team. They check so many boxes, and I just think Darnold is okay. I don't think they can win the Super Bowl with him, but I think if they can get you to a title game, right? I mean, I think that they can win a couple of playoff games because the team is that good. So in my number 9 spot, I have the Green Bay Packers. I love this offense. I think that this defense is mediocre. Jordan Love, I really like at the end of the day. I do think compared to like the Chargers, right? There's just a stability I get with LA, and Herbert is playing at just a different level than you're getting from a Jordan Love right now. So I think the Packers are really good. I also think that they're flawed, and there's just teams that I look at and it's like, okay, the Vikings are going to be a good offense. They're going to be a great defense, right? The Packers are going to be a very good offense. They're going to be a mediocre defense. 9 feels like a good spot for them to me.
I just they just seem to manufacture big plays at such a high rate. I love that aspect of Green Bay, but I get that.
Well, Jordan Love just throws the ball off his back foot 65 yards downfield and says,
he might be the best watch, man. Josh Allen's probably the best watch actually, but
yeah, I mean, Love is a great watch, but also like if I were a Packers fan, I mean, I would love him, obviously. But also, I'd be like, bro, just like chill a little bit. Just like chill like 25% more. Because some of these throws are ill-advised, to say the least.
Certified non-chiller Jordan Love. In my 10 spot, I debated having San Francisco here, but considering that the 49ers are on the verge of not making the playoffs, I'd rather have a playoff team here, and that's the Houston Texans. The Texans are basically a playoff lock to me at this point with how bad the AFC South is, and I just know they're going to be there. I don't know what's going on if San Francisco is going to end up there or not. Basically, my next 4 teams off is the entirety of the NFC West. It is the Niners, Rams, Seahawks, and Cardinals in some sort of order. Mm-hmm. And I'm slowly souring on the Texans. They were on the verge of entering that contender range. The interior of the offensive line is a joke. That dude, Juice Scruggs, sucks, man. That dude is Juice Scrubs. Get him off the field. Thanks.
Nice. You got to trademark that. You got to tweet that. Hashtag Juice Scrubs. And then you throw an LMAO and a skull emoji after. That's going to go viral. That'll go viral.
A little fire emoji. Yeah.
Fire emoji.
The interior offensive line concerns me, but I like the pass rush. I like the defense. The defense is solid. Yeah. I really like C.J. Stroud. The Texans are solid. That's why they're number 10. I don't look at them as a real contender. They have a glaring flaw with the interior of that offensive line, but I know the Texans are going to be in the playoffs. That's why they're number 10.
That's fair. I considered the Texans. I'm going to go with the Niners at 10, and I get it. There is a real chance that they don't make the playoffs, and the Texans are going to. But also, the Texans have such a Mickey Mouse division. The Niners still have a better point differential on the year, man. I don't think either of these teams are that good. I think both these teams are flawed. I think both these teams are underwhelming. I still think the Niners have the more dynamic offensive talent. I think the defensively, these two groups are comparable. The special teams for the Niners is a problem. And like, look, we can't act as though you can just write off these late games that they've blown within their division, right? And there's been 3 of them, and say, okay, well, they're better than their record because of that. You do it once, okay. You do it twice, okay. You do it 3 times. That's something of a pattern. It says something at least about who you are as a football team. And also, it's just cut down their margin and the amount of time they have to make up for those sort of losses. So at the end of the day, I just think gut feeling the Niners would scare me more if I were an opposing team. I just don't think the Texans are that good, and there's still a ceiling in there with the Niners that is higher. But I think you could go either way. I also think you could go Cardinals. It's just the Cardinals defense is so bad, but their offense is so good. And you mentioned, I mean, all the NFC West teams are sort of in this same range. That's why I think that division is so interesting.